comment sheets for the document and the ballot when we commence these speakers. All right. What better way to break the ice than to type your introduction? Please welcome Toastmaster Ward Gros. This September, he joined Toastmasters. Today, Ward will give his first speech as Icebreaker. As a member of Winter Park Toastmasters, he is impressed by our members' professionalism and collegiality. Well, thank you, sir. More than 27 years ago, Ward was previously a member of Fashion Square Hall Toastmasters. This morning, he will share what he's been up to while he's been away in his Icebreaker speech titled, From Chasing the Adrenaline to Just Chill the Heck Out. Please welcome Toastmaster Ward Gros.
Thank you. Wow, we had some great speakers today. Good morning, Toastmasters.
Good morning.
Are you a fast or slow runner? Maybe you just don't run at all. There are sprinters and long-distance runners. Having been a cross-country runner myself, I know that long-distance running requires goal setting, and each mile you pass is a significant achievement. For me, life is the same, measured in its own mile markers. This year, I've reached a major mile marker, retirement. I retired from 2 jobs. I retired from 27 years of teaching high school English and 31 years with the U.S. Army Reserve. August was my first full month in retirement. Growing up in Louisiana, my last name is Gros, G-R-O-S. Outside of Louisiana, it's not that common. You go down to Louisiana and it's as common as Brown or Smith. The S is silent, so thank you for that. I was the oldest of 4. I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My family moved there from Port Sulphur after Dad, a high school principal, was chased out of that small town. It was the 1960s. It was an era of desegregation. So his responsibility, and he was one of a series of principals that were shuffled out, was to desegregate the high school. And he did that. But he was chased out. And it was a trying time in South Louisiana. We moved from a 2-story, nice principal's home in the countryside, chasing butterflies, to a city, urban duplex, where a lot of construction was going on in Baton Rouge at the time. Dad was a little bit bitter, a little bit disillusioned, but he was hardworking. You see, he grew up as a welder, and he also grew up playing music in New Orleans around the time of Fats Domino, Professor Longhair, and some other great pianists. Dad was a pianist. He was also a music educator. And he was also able to repair instruments. So he worked 3 jobs in Baton Rouge, because in a city you can find 3 jobs and make ends meet in many circumstances. Even so, he was a little bit bitter. He would play hotel lounges on the weekends, come home in the evening, bang away at the piano. It didn't matter who was sleeping. He would be playing Fats Domino walking to New Orleans at that time. So music was an inescapable part of living at our house. It was also a time of dance floor Madonnas and snarling Billy Idol punk rockers for anybody who grew up during that MTV generation. And for whatever reason, and part of the rebellion, I was really attracted to that Billy Idol side of that MTV panoramic view of America at the time. But soon I grew disillusioned with the Hollywood sheen of it all. And I began chasing after bands like Black Flag and the Dead Kennedys. I took up cross-country running before half marathons and marathons were so popular, especially in South Louisiana. And I rode my bike 80 miles from Baton Rouge to New Orleans and couch surfed and had free dinners at the Hare Krishna Temple, because that's what punk rockers did at the time. So nearly every punk rocker between Lafayette, capital of Cajun country, and New Orleans, a whole different culture, knew who I was. I even had a garage band in high school, as many do, called the Swamp Cats. We weren't all that good, but I did write publicity, and we wound up being invited to play at a biker bar in Gonzales. But because we were underage, we just didn't do it. At that time, I worked at Mr. Music. Well, after graduating high school, I took a gap year, much to my parents' disillusionment. Worked at a record store, Mr. Music. And at the time, I was going to concerts, hanging out with the street guys, all that stuff, and I thought I'd go Army, go infantry. Thank you, Carlos.
Whoa.
You were armor, right, Tim?
Nope, I was just an engineer.
Engineer.
Army.
Cool. We're not going to talk about the Air Force, Carson. All right, so I talked to Mom and Dad. I was like, I'm going to infantry. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. And they were like, go to college first. I said, all right, but I'm definitely going to go to the Army as soon as I'm done with this. And so I went to LSU, Louisiana State University, not that far away from home in Baton Rouge. And during my breaks, I spent time making 3-day Greyhound bus trips up to New York, CBGB's, where Blondie and Ramones played. It was at the biggest dump I had ever seen, and I didn't see either of those bands there. All right, then I lived a summer in Atlanta, working at a vegetarian restaurant, barely breaking even, and again, getting free dinners from the Hare Krishnas on Sundays, because they gave you a ton of food for some interesting information. Finding myself at Eat Your Vegetables in Atlanta, I had a come to Jesus moment. I went to LSU, in the cafeteria, singing Bebop-A-Lula, making up my own lyrics, and my wife, not my wife at the time, turned around and said, shut up. Shut up. And so we had been having lunch and talking for the 36 years since that time. She's put up with a lot, including my first 7 years as an active duty Army photojournalist, where I wound up doing a lot of interesting things, sleeping in 4-star hotels, sleeping in the dirt, riding in helicopters with Defense Secretary at the time, Dick Cheney, doing media relations for CNN's Wolf Blitzer and Haitian refugees in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and in Russia, photographing Vladimir Putin during the U.S. Army Russian first peacekeeping training exercise in Toyskoye, Russia. I even had a little trip to Albania. So very few people get to Albania, but it's an interesting place, especially at that time. Anita finally gave me an ultimatum. It was either her or the Army. Either her or the Army. Kim said, bring along these visuals. So I'm bringing along visuals, but I don't know about how I'm doing with them. All right, I've got a great son. He's an industrial engineer. He's in Norfolk, Virginia, very successful. I've got a great daughter, Camille. Paul's my son's name. Camille is my daughter's name. She's an artist working on her Master in Fine Arts, full scholarship, University of Arkansas, Suey Pig. She is not a big SEC sports fan. That's not where she got her bachelor's, but she and I will be going to our first football game together, LSU versus the Razorbacks, in October. Teaching, I've only taught at 2 schools. And the students I've met there have been fantastic. So what I'm asking for you guys, Toastmasters, as we herald in this new era is, will you help me make this transition after retirement? Toastmasters, will you help me?
Yeah.
Thank you.